How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Hope everybody's doing great. It was a great night on Friday night in LA, if you're an LA fan of any sport, really.
And Saturday night.
And Saturday
a couple
night.
back-to-back good days.
Yeah, well, I mean, just, Friday night, Dodgers won with the Grand Slam, Trojans won, Lakers won, and then yesterday, the Dodgers are 2-0, so sorry for all you Yankees fans out there, but hopefully they keep going. The Dodgers, not the Yankees. Anyways, let's get down to it. So we are talking about, when it comes to Sony live action, it is one of the most muddied, some of the worst superhero movies ever, in recent years. Mm-hmm. I would rather take the lot of DC over majority of the Sony stuff. That's how bad they've been. And the latest one, it's a mixed love-hate thing, and that is Venom 3: The Last Dance, which is the end to the Venom trilogy with Sony, starring Tom Hardy, it also had Juno Temple, Ejiofor. Ejiofor. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong.
Chiwetel.
I'm sorry, yeah, Chiwetel, and Andy Serkis, and a slew of actually other good actors. This is non-spoilers always, so please do not forget to like the video if you enjoy it. Ring the bell to stay up to date with notifications, and of course subscribe. We appreciate you all for tuning in and checking out our stuff as we're nearing the end of another cinematic year and, going into the holiday season. So this one takes place, for those, this may be minor spoilers for those of you who haven't been totally caught up on the MCU post-Endgame, but this basically takes place right after Spider-Man No Way Home, in which, Tom Hardy and, at the end of Venom 2 Last Carnage, they got sucked in the MCU temporarily due to Spider-Man messing with the multiverse and stuff with Doctor Strange. And then he gets tossed back into the Sony-verse, and that's when we're introduced to one of a newer character, last 10 years of Marvel, which is Null, who is after the symbiotes on Earth, and that's what, not only are Venom and Eddie trying to escape the feds because they're on the run, but they're also trying to escape these alien creatures hunting them and stuff. So it's definitely, I don't know why some trilogies end like The Fugitive. I don't get why that's a thing, but it has to happen one way or another.
That is true. So, run on the run from the government. Eddie, Captain America was also on the run from the government. I mean, I guess that's just how you end your trilogies. You're just enemies on all sides.
Black Panther
you're back
3.
to a corner.
She's gonna be running from Wakanda, and then I don't know who. Oh my gosh. Anyways, Venom is actually probably, aside from the Spider-Verse movies, like the animated ones, and then technically Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies are Sony. I don't really give credit to them for that. They're more of just, they're basically like the library, they're loaning the rights, and then, Marvel creatives are really reading it and creating imagination and artwork out of it. So I don't really count that. But the Spider-Verse, Tom Holland movies, Venom is the only one that's actually had a franchise going on. Mm-hmm. Is it good? Depending who you ask. I like the second one a lot more, which a lot of people did not like, which is very surprising to me. First one was just meh, like the other ones. And then this one, it kind of ends on the same note. It's not the best, but it's definitely not the worst. I just was... There was a good portion of this movie. I was like, what is the point of this? Let's get straight to it. And that's no fault of the actors or anything, but yeah, the story was just not there. But Bern, what did you think about this movie?
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, 3 movies in, you either know or whether you like this this franchise or not. There's nothing different really from this one to the other 2 that came before it. It's like you either like Eddie and Venom and are having fun with these movies, or they don't work for you. And I mean, how you got to this point, being the third one and you not liking them, that's kind of like a self-inflicted wound at that point. But yeah, look, this movie... continues the streak of the last two, where really it is just about, Tom Hardy showcasing a fun side of himself that we don't really see in other movies. Whether you see like his more dramatic stuff, he's definitely a little bit more kooky, definitely a little more wild in these movies, and it's fun to watch. And he's basically the main draw because everything else about these movies aren't really that great. To be honest, I would argue probably not even that good, but his performance alone and just his willingness to sort of go up to 100 every time makes these movies enjoyable. And it's been that way since the beginning, where, like you mentioned, the first movie was very just sort of like a failed attempt at like a paint by numbers generic superhero movie, but that relationship between Eddie and Venom is the thing that really worked about it, and that's something the second movie really leaned into, which that's why I really enjoyed the second movie, because it was much more of a relationship rom-com than like a traditional superhero movie, and I enjoyed seeing those two characters, bounce off of each other. And with this movie, I would say it has a little bit more in common with the first one, where it tries to take itself a little more seriously in terms of the superhero narrative that it's trying to tell. And again, I don't think it worked in the first movie, and that part didn't really work for me in this movie either. But the fun zaniness relationship between Eddie and Venom is the thing that again continues to carry this movie. Like you mentioned, the script for this movie is just all over the place, and I know this movie was one of those that was affected by both the writers and the actors' strikes, so it is hard to throw all that on top of this movie. And we've seen other movies that have come down during the strikes, and they all leave things to be desired. But with this movie in particular, ending a trilogy, it kind of sucks a little bit more on that end, where it's just like, man, you see there were ideas there of where they wanted to go with this, obviously the broader ideal with Noel and the symbiotes, and then all along the way a bunch of little character moments and stuff. And I will say a lot of the character moments did work for me, but how it all sort of ties into the grander narrative just left me scratching my head along the way. So yeah, it was just all over the place, but the one thing that grounded it all together was Tom Hardy's performance as Eddie and Venom, just as it was in the last two movies.
Yeah, for me, for the last, I would say 15 years, Tom Hardy's been one of my favorite actors. Ever since I saw him in Inception, then I saw Bronson, and then he was in This Means War, and then I rediscovered him in Black Hawk Down, which was like, what? He was in that too. He's been one of my favorite actors, so he's definitely the thing that holds this franchise together and keeps it going for the most part. And the other actors like Juno Temple, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Stephen Graham, all these other guys, they definitely do pitch into this movie. Like you said, Bern, I did like the other characters in it. There were some cool moments, but overall, this is just goes to show that Sony really just does these movies just to hold on to the rights, because without Spider-Verse and Tom Holland, they really have no foot in the superhero stuff whatsoever. I forgot I don't think they were the ones who tried to do the Valiant verse with Bloodshot Bloodshot, but I want to say it was either them or somebody else that tanked those movies, but that is what it is. So I think just Sony, they need to stick with video games and other stuff, because they definitely don't know superhero movies whatsoever, except for the Spider-Verse. That's the only thing they've done well. And also this one, even though there was some funny moments, especially with Tom Hardy, the CGI was really bad. Like, for vast majority. There was only a few moments I was like, okay, like, I could buy into it. Majority of it, I was like, this just looks just bad. The budget was not into that too much, but it is what it is at this point. I think even Craven coming up, it's got Russell Crowe, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and I want to say Ariana DeBose is in it. I still have no hope for it whatsoever. It's just, even with Craven kicking ass in Spider-Man 2 this year, I still just don't see it being the thing. So we'll have to see on that one. But for this movie, I'm going to give it a hard 2 out of 5. Actually, you know what? No, I would kind of give it a soft 2 out of 5. It's almost a 3, just because, again, I'm a sucker for Tom Hardy and the cast. Especially just them and Venom's dynamic and dialogue throughout the movies and stuff. It's kind of sad to see these two characters end together, or at least the actor and the character end. But I think most of it is just, it sucks to end on such a weak note. But yeah, 2 out of 5. I recommend it for maybe a $5 Tuesday, or just wait till it's streaming. In all honesty, definitely better than Madam Web though, so that's something.
I mean, it would be hard to be worse than Madam
I
Web
don't
and
know.
Morbius.
People are saying, what's the one movie we saw recently that was really bad that people are saying Madam Web beat? It was, shoot. Oh my god, it's gonna hit me in a little bit. But there was a really bad movie recently. I know we watched, and it was like people are saying, "Oh, that's worse than Madam Web." I'm like, I don't know if I go that far, but yeah, Bern, go ahead and give your ranting. I'll come back when it pops into my head. I'll let you know.
It's hard to say. This year hasn't been great in terms of movies, but yeah. I mean, like it's hard to overstate how much Tom Hardy carries these movies, and when you're what you're coming into for a Venom movie is for that relationship, and throughout this movie, that part really worked for me. Their comedy, their banter, and even some heartfelt moments here and there that they share with each other. It's just that's the thing that you come to this for. So if that stuff worked for you in the other two movies, I think it's gonna work for you here. But in terms of everything else, it's just it's just kind of a mixed bag in terms of what they were trying to do with just the personal story, and then obviously building into the bigger thing of whatever they're trying to do in terms of this overall Sony cinematic universe. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're coming to this movie just for a fun, good time, I think you will have it. If you're coming into it for anything more than that, you're going to leave disappointed. So yeah, for me, it's in that borderline of 2 to 3. I think it's a 2 in terms of like how it is as a movie, but in 3 in terms of like enjoyment for this character and this actor that I really enjoy watching on screen. So yeah, I mean it's just like the other two Venom movies. You get what you're paying for.
Yeah, and I just realized it was Joker 2. I've already phased that movie out of my memory because that was such a disappointment. But if I had to watch Joker 2 versus this one, I'm going to go with Venom 3.
Easy.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far, it's not, again, it's not the worst thing. It's just, it could be better. It should have been better, but, we can blame a little bit on the strikes and stuff because that does pitch into a bad story and just bad budget in general. But overall, it was just such a bummer they had. I think I would rather have them postpone it one more year and actually do the work into it. But we get what we get.
Yeah, I mean, and it's unfortunate that that got thrown on Kelly Marcel, who's the director in this one. She was the writer on the last two movies, and for this to be sort of like her debut, it's a lot being thrown at her. So I don't envy her position at all.
No, that's definitely a bad mark to have, but not necessarily her fault. But until next time, everyone, please let us know what you thought of this. But otherwise, just keep on ranting for us. I really appreciate you all for it.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.